Welcome back to the On Life podcast. This is one of our things we do every season, and that is student testimonials. So just a time to get to know other online students, a time to maybe open the door to share your story as well. And we're really excited to have this particular online student here with us. Robin, who do we have today?
Man, you guys are going to love today's. I know we shouldn't say ahead of time if you're going to love a podcast or not. You're going to love this one. So I get the pleasure of introducing you to Jules Peterson. She has been an online student, and she's also the Associate Director of Commuter Development. So, Jules, thanks for being here.
Thank you guys for having me. Yeah. It's so fun. I've heard about the On Life podcast for a while now, and now I get to be on it.
Now you're on it.
Here we are.
I know.
In the studio.
There we go.
Yeah, it's great. Well, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what degree program you were in, how you got to Liberty, just kind of a little bit about you.
Yeah. Well, to go all the way back to 2020, I know we don't like to relive COVID days, but that's when I graduated high school. So I was looking into psychology programs, actually, and I wanted to go to a Christian school that aligned with my values. And Liberty had great programs and professors that I wanted to get to know and learn from. So I started online, hence me being the online student guest, back in 2020. As a psych student. And then honestly, there's a bunch of little pieces of the journey that ended up to me being here today. So
cool.
Yeah.
So did you finish your degree? You graduated?
I did. Yes. Okay. So I ended up graduating in 2023 with a degree in strategic communications, social media management, and 2 minors, psych and Christian ministries.
Okay.
And then I went
You plowed through.
I know. And then I went right into my graduate degree too, also in strategic communications. So now we're here.
So
that was
smart.
in May. Not necessarily, but the Lord provided.
Nice.
So tell us more about, like, in 2020, you first started online programs here at Liberty. What was that like kind of dipping your toe there and starting something like that?
Yeah, it was very encouraging. I remember the whole world was kind of shut down. All my peers were trying to figure out what their next steps were because a lot of colleges were shut down. Liberty was open, but I also just, the world was shut down, so I couldn't really, earn money to like make it out here. And so, in a wild connections and people that I got to talk to, either emailing people in student advising or whatnot, said that, this program and like this might get you to where you want to go. But yeah, back at that first year, it was really exciting. It was a big challenge to kind of experience college life, but without the typical college experience that my friends were having. So it was a challenge to, navigate finding community. And when a lot of those people that I was really close to moved away my freshman year, so kind of restarting from scratch, as most of the world was at the time too. So it kind of blended pretty well. But yeah, I really loved my classes that first year. I ended up changing my major, but I still really loved my time studying, introduction to psychology and developmental psychology. And they sent me this was so cool. I just love that our school does this. But I had to do experiments, and they sent me kits that I got to do at home and do different tests and stuff and analyze it myself. And, my mom would come in the kitchen. She's like, what in the world is on the table? And I was like, I'll clean it up before dinner, I promise. But it was really cool, to have a hands-on experience, even though it was virtual. But it was really great.
Did you feel like you were able to meet friends or make connections while you were an online student, or did it feel kind of like you were on an island?
I will say it did kind of feel like an island sometimes. But I found some college ministries in my area that I connected with, and some of them were also Liberty online students or online students at Regent University or just another Christian university. So we got along because of that, kind of bonded. Cool. And because everything was so flexible for us, we met up at coffee shops and did homework all day together. Nice. And just had a source of community and accountability, which was really, really helpful for that. So yeah, plugging in at church too, just finding ways to be present in my community while I'm still doing school. So yeah.
Yeah, and having to be intentional about it, knowing that it's not going to it's not like you're sitting in a class next to somebody that you can just kind of chat with. Like you have to be very intentional.
Right. Yeah. You got to put those things on the Google Calendar, have a weekly kind of meetup time, or a place to serve weekly where you're, not only like being poured into by somebody, but also pouring out and hopefully getting to find a space where you can use the skills you're learning in your online program and apply it in the real world. So,
yeah. Nice. So you started as a psych major, shifted to strategic communications, but kept your psych minor.
Yes.
So talk about that. Like what kind of prompted that? What, like did your career's goals shift? Like what was that?
Yeah. So my whole freshman year, I just loved the idea of psychology and helping people. And as I was learning things, I realized I really loved learning it, but the career options weren't exactly what I maybe were best suited for. Not that I couldn't have ever done it, but the idea of counseling, sitting one-on-one with people day in and day out was cool. And I really think that's valuable. And I love my friends who do it, but I really missed out on being creative, which is something I've always enjoyed my whole life, is making silly videos with my friends or crafting or writing. And my parents really recognized that in me, that I was kind of in my head a lot, I think, with psychology. You're studying human behavior and how humans interact and how you can grow from that. And it's a lot of like deep core things. And those are wonderful conversations to have. But it kind of felt like there was nowhere for me to go with it, like how to serve or apply that anywhere. And my dad was like, Jules, you should look into communications. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to be a radio host. Like, I'm not going to be a journalist. And that's my only concept of communications. Sure. And he was like, take a look at some degree programs and like look at the classes that you'd be taking and see what's available, because there's social media, there's websites, there's photography, there's writing that's not journalism, there's public speaking. Like, there's so many more facets to this that take what you love about psychology and apply it to actually, help people in maybe a different way. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, just all the light bulbs went off. And I was like, this makes so much sense. And I can see clearly accessible ways to make that a career that were both like a combination of my passions, skills, but then also how to earn money with it, which is kind of that triangle of how to find a career that suits you and that's sustainable. So that really sunk in about April of 2021. And I was like, okay, strategic communications, it's taking the brain part and taking the action part and putting it together in a creative way, again, to help people. But I was like, I don't really want to do marketing. I'm not really that fascinated by business, but I do really have a heart for churches and for nonprofits who, believe the things about Jesus that I believe. And so I was like, are there spaces that take this concept and apply it to, sharing the gospel and doing initiatives like either Bible translation or youth ministry or just any kind of ways of serving our broken world. And lo and behold, there was a lot of need for it. And as I started like making connections with different organizations over the course of my degree, I realized how much like organizations and churches really desired people who knew the skills, like actually knew the skills, and were trained in it in a professional way. Like, having video content that really helps, show the emotion of like the authentic human experience and also show the transformation of the gospel on people's lives. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, this actually has such an eternal significance to the work that I'd be doing. Not just getting someone to buy more Cheerios at Target, like I really wanted to have a deeper impact. And so that gave me a clear path to see it through, which is why I added the Christian ministries minor.
Okay.
So I wanted to get more background on, church organization and youth ministry from a maybe academic standpoint, so that I could kind of merge all these three concepts together and continue forward.
That's fantastic. And it's great that your dad was willing to speak into that and say, have you considered, like, I know this about you, but I also know that, which I think is such an important thing in any goal that we have, is to, like, something may sound good, but to either do the deep work yourself or have someone who speaks into your life that says, have you considered? Like what a gift that is.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's important. And I think the other thing that I got out of that was it's okay to change. Like, yes, you have a plan, you have a path, but it's okay to take a pause and be like, wait a minute, maybe I should shift to this because this aligns better.
Yeah.
Love that.
It was great.
When you were taking your online classes, what sort of things maybe were like really positive that you loved, and what were some of the things that were a little hard? Like, I'd love to hear kind of more about your experience there.
Let's see. I'll start with the positive first, because it really has been a blessing to me, like overall. And I think the flexibility of it is just incredible. Like, I've been able to step into spaces and, work 2 jobs at the same time of doing school and also have a social calendar. And that was possible. And so it made the last 5 years, honestly, like affordable, to be able to navigate, working a lot of hours, but also, coming home at the end of the night and being able to get on and write a discussion board. So that was huge. Along with that came, it's easy to forget maybe that you have deadlines. Like, it feels a little abstract. So that was definitely, maybe a challenge for me. I didn't find out until about 2 years ago that I actually, have symptoms of ADHD, which I didn't know most of my college journey. And interestingly enough, like through learning that, I learned more people around me that had it and, how to navigate classwork because of that. And I got to actually communicate with my professors that way and say, hey, I really need maybe some extra time on this assignment. Can you work with me or answer these questions? And so it became apparent that online classes, as much as in the classroom, you can build those intentional relationships with your professors and with other students in the class. And that actually, shapes your experience and helps you, retain the knowledge, but also apply it. And so the flexibility of it all just was huge, because it gave me the opportunity to take initiative, of, making those deadlines and communicating with professors and my peers. So that was huge for me. Let's see, a weakness. Well, I wouldn't say a weakness, maybe a challenge of online classes. I kind of mentioned just navigating deadlines. Like, it can be really easy to forget on a Sunday or Monday night. Oh my gosh, I had a 12-page paper due. Oh, no. You got to write it really fast. So that's, I feel like, a challenge with any academic program. But again, that gives you the opportunity to learn what works best for your schedule and time manage. But the biggest part about online classes, I think, were accountability. And I got to find some of my peers in my classes, in the introduction discussion board, and you get to say like, oh, this is where I'm at in life. This is the program I'm working through, and just actually genuinely interacting with the people that I'm doing these programs with. And it was so sweet to go and have them on Facebook and, reach out every once in a while, or same with my professors, still keep in touch with some of them. And so it's really cool to see that become a place of community, even though it's maybe the option is to be distant, but the option is also to engage. Yeah. And so that was wonderful. But again, still a challenge, but like a good challenge, I think. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So do you have, so you mentioned, recognizing some ADHD. So what sort of tips, tricks, things did help you stay on track with time management, or maybe communicating with your professors, or just staying disciplined to do the work?
Oh my gosh, yes. Such a good question. Honestly, it's kind of trial and error for a while, figuring out what works best for you. What works best for me is having visuals, so a progress bar and, physically writing down all of the deadlines for all the 8 weeks, and kind of mapping that out before I add on social calendar and before I add on a work schedule, so that I know, what weeks are probably going to be heavier, what weeks do I just need someone to sit next to me and do their homework with me. I'm trying to think. A huge one, which I feel like not many people know about this, but you can link your Canvas calendar to your personal calendar.
That's cool.
Okay.
So like due dates and stuff will show up?
Exactly.
On your calendar?
So it's like really hard to miss. Like, oh, I want to hang out with my friends this Friday night. You can't. You have a video project due. Okay, cool. I'll focus on that and hang out with them tomorrow. So that was really helpful. I mentioned like a progress bar. I found there's a few like task management apps out there like Notion or sometimes people use Asana for personal stuff. There was a website called Monday.com that helped me through really my last year of grad school. Like it have a progress bar, status, the due date. You can link your Word documents to it. And that just helped me stay very, very organized.
That's cool.
So that was great. I'm trying to think of some other ones.
I'm not sure if they still have the, I think it's called like a course schedule or something. It's like a one page that has all the assignments for the semester.
Oh, like
on
a
it.
syllabus or no?
I think it was part of the syllabus.
Okay.
I don't want to date myself. but back in
to
my
the VHS days?
I used to print out the schedule and I would just keep highlighting when I finished stuff. And it was sort of like a progress bar. You could see like, okay, I only have like 5 more things to do or whatever. And for me, that really helps just, like what you're saying, just kind of staying motivated and keeping on that time management piece. So maybe they don't have that anymore. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it really helped me.
That's a great tactic. Yeah, you just made me think of this too, of like progress bars are fun because you see the progress and you celebrate the progress. And I think that's something just in general in life, like when you complete something, when you've made it through something big or small, like it's important to celebrate that you've made it and then kind of continue on from there. So with every, week, have a little ice cream treat at the end of the week or at the end of a class, invite friends over and watch a movie.
Yeah.
Just celebrate those times and get excited about, completing another class, getting another letter grade. It's big.
All right, so you've done your bachelor's, you've done your master's at Liberty. So let's talk about like the flexibility of the program. Like what about it? Like how Liberty offers their programs for students? Like how was that beneficial to you? Was there anything in that you kind of changed things up?
Yeah. I definitely benefited from how flexible the degree completion plans are here. I changed my major, but I was able to take, my psych credits and turn it into a minor. And I was able to add a Christian ministries minor on as well. And so it helped me kind of customize my learning experience that wasn't necessarily available in a residential degree program, oddly enough. So that was really exciting for me because I got to combine what I wanted to study and order it in a way that mapped out well for me to graduate from my bachelor's a semester early, actually. So I was able to, take my prereqs in 8-week segments so that, in the spring semester, I was able to take those major courses a lot faster. So that was a huge benefit of just how Liberty structures their programs. And I loved the strategic communications program as well, because a lot of our program is either arts classes or general comms classes, but we also had, specific stratcom classes with social media management.
Nice.
And so getting to, again, like structure it in a way that, I have a graphic design class here, a loyalty program class here, and I get to take those in the same semester versus like having all of my art classes in one semester. I was able to, map it out myself and, take the maybe writing classes online with more essays based and then take my arts focus classes in person and get that raw feedback in classes from my professors and my peers because they'll be honest. So, which I really appreciate. So that was a really cool way to see how the balance worked really well for me and that kind of hybrid model of being able to take 1 or 2 in-person classes when I moved up here to Lynchburg. So that was cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to an online student who's maybe trying to balance that out? Like they're trying to get their classes done. They're trying to figure out, maybe they live locally here and they're like, do I do some hybrid? Do I come in for all my classes? Do I do online? They're trying to balance all that plus family, friends, work, all this that goes on. What maybe words of advice would you have for someone who's trying to figure all that out?
Yeah. It's hard. it really just is hard. And I think if we pretend that it's easy, it'll be harder to move forward from there. But it really is hard. And every scenario is unique. So do not compare yourself to the person next door, the other person in the discussion post. Like God is preparing you uniquely for the race that you're going to run. And it just so happens he's using Liberty University to train and equip you during this time through online programs. So it takes time to learn, what does work best. And it all comes down to your priorities, I think. Mm-hmm. What are your longer term goals and what are your values? If your value is to spend as much time with family as possible, then it might look like having to do your classes, when the kids go to bed, mm-hmm. or if, working full time is also a value of yours that you maybe factually need to do that. Waking up early and, going to the gym then and then going to work, eating dinner and then doing homework. So it really takes a while to learn what works best. But if you recognize what your priorities are, it will help you align your time because, what you value reveals itself in how you spend your time. And so it'll pan out from there. But also just trust the Lord because, we can try to chase like this idea of balance. I'll have peace when my time schedule is, breaking even. It's like, that's not where, mm-hmm. that's not where our peace comes from. That's not where our rest is found. Yeah. We're actually, kind of more called to rest in the Lord first and do our work from there. Because if we do it the other way around, we're never going to rest. We're just going to work ourselves to death. And so, that was a huge thing that a lot of mentors helped me with because I would probably be more of the type to, work until I'm burnt out. And, that's helpful for honestly nobody. Yeah. Take the time to celebrate along the way and to rest and prioritize that. Because that's what will come out of you is a desire to do the work and to desire to, so to speak, balance your time, in a way that not only, serves you and honors the Lord with your work, but also serves the other people that you're around and your community.
Yeah. So how has your education impacted your view of serving others?
That's a good question. I think I've gone through phases of understanding this.
Okay.
I've always been the type of person to love the classroom, like to love learning itself. And I think after a while I was like, I'm so tired of writing essays, it can get to a point. But genuinely, like my love for learning kind of continued. And to see that in other people, I think has shaped my framework of service to teach and to train and to pass along wisdom that we know. We're all just not like, let me say this a different way. When I came into college, I would look at people who were in their early 20s or, just in their careers for maybe more than 5 years. I'm like, oh, they've got it figured out, And now that I'm 23 sitting here, I'm like, oh, so no one has it figured out. We all are walking through it together. So why not help each other out and pass along the things that we've learned that works, what doesn't work. And most importantly, like the truth of Scripture. I think that's been one of the most impactful things about Liberty in general is, our professors pray for us, the work that we do is not, it's not just empty purpose. It's not just the seeking of knowledge, but being trained and equipped to then go out into our world and, be champions for Christ. And that's like what we're here to do. So yeah, it's gone through multiple iterations, I think, as I've aged a little bit, not that old, but it kind of feels like it sometimes. But yeah, education is just training and equipping young leaders in this time of life and sending them out and loving others through their skills and their strengths. And the Lord will do the rest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what's next for you, Jules Peterson?
We'll see. No, I'm really excited about where I'm at right now.
Yeah. So you just started working full time for Liberty, right?
I did. Yes.
Yeah. And that role has a lot, from what I understand, has a lot to do with this like ministering to commuter students, right? And
it does.
that goes right along with your degrees and like you feeling like you're really in a great spot that you've been set up for all these years leading up to this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really interesting spot to be in. I'm just so like blown away by the Lord's orchestration of everything. There have been, as the associate director of commuter development, I serve in commuter life, in student life, and our goal is to reach and connect with off-campus undergraduate students who are here in the Lynchburg area. Maybe they lived on campus and moved off, or maybe they've just lived in Lynchburg their whole lives. But we want to connect with them and offer and bring them into the whole Liberty experience and not kind of leave them out on purpose. We want to bring them in on purpose. Yeah. And so I get to lead a team of commuter coordinators, which I honestly I've never led a team before. So this is a learning experience for me, but it's a huge blessing and I love each one of them. But I also get to, plan and develop programs that specifically service, specific growth targets that we encourage our commuter students to grow in during their time in college. And sometimes it's like candle making, but this Tuesday we had auto crash course and we pulled up a car in the parking garage and we said, this is how you check your oil. This is how you change a spare tire. And
very valuable life skills.
Yeah, practical life skills for sure.
Yeah. And so interestingly enough, like psychology and Christian ministries and strategic communications all plays a role, but maybe not how like the degree program may have been laid out, but the things that the Lord was over time, maturing in me has suited me so well in this role already, even though I've only been here for a few months now. Yeah. So it's a huge blessing to serve off-campus students and to meet their needs, to resource them. We've got the commuter lounge, the food pantry, just to bring them in and say, hey, you're home. We're here for you. So it's amazing. Yeah.
That's great. Well, Jules, one question we ask all of our guests, so I'll ask you too. What words of encouragement do you have for online students who are maybe tuning in and listening to this today?
Yeah. I think of everything I've said this whole time, honestly, you could forget all of it and that'd be fine with me. But if you remember that and trust that the Lord is faithful, to provide for you, to be a good and loving father to you, that's probably going to get you further than any of the advice I have to share, because that's true no matter what I say. That's in Scripture. That's His enduring word. And so all these tips and tricks may or may not help you, but I know that the Lord will, and I trust God to care for you and to love you. So, yeah.
Amen. Well, Jules, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're out there listening to this, maybe you have a question for Jules, or maybe you want to share your own story. We don't want to give out Jules' email because then she'll have tons of emails. So email us at onlinestudentlife@liberty.edu, and we could pass those on to Jules as we get them. And again, if you want to share your story, we would love to hear it. We can't feature every online student on the podcast, but we are always looking for students that we can feature. About once a semester, we try to feature a student. And so if that's you, if you want to share your testimony or to share what God's done in your life through Liberty University Online, we would love to hear from you.